with Narcissist podcast, where the first recommendation is don't. But unfortunately, that's not always possible. So this is your haven for validation, insight, strategies, and resources. So let's get started. Welcome, I'm Carrie, and this is the Living with Narcissist podcast. In the last episode, we explored the thought patterns and the behavior patterns of the codependent giver and the narcissistic taker and how they have developed. We learned that the narcissist taker is self-focused, looking for narcissistic supply to affirm their sense of self-importance and grandiosity. The codependent giver is other-focused, hoping to create a sense of security by abandoning themselves, sacrificing their own needs and well-being for the narcissistic taker. This need for external validation is an addiction that causes an individual to crave other people's love and attention or acclaim in order to amass feelings of self-worth based on sources outside. A healthy person can generate and regulate a sense of self-worth and self-esteem from within. Similar to a hybrid car, they can run on gas or the car can generate its own power. So you can fill the tank with gas, which is like getting affirmation from the external world. But if you're not getting affirmation from the external world, like a hybrid car, you can self-generate your own self-worth and self-esteem. A person who's codependent, narcissist, or codependent victim is like a gasoline-powered car because they need others to fill up their gas tank to keep them going. Therefore, they are in constant pursuit of external validation to keep their engine humming along. They crave constant praise, constant attention, and constant admiration from others as it serves to reinforce their sense of superiority and maintain their inflated self-image. A person who is not codependent knows their self-worth, and they know that they are awesome even when no one fills up their gas tank. So, like the hybrid car, a healthy person can self-generate their own sense of value. Narcissistic supply is the fuel that runs the narcissist's car, and it is the drug to which they are addicted. The problem with being codependent is that you're dependent on other people's opinions, judgments, and perceptions of you, which makes you prone to being manipulated and potentially being manipulative yourself. We are so desperate for the external validation that we never consider that it does not matter if the person agrees. So the two codependents, narcissist and victim, can spend endless time arguing for consensus. In other words, you are defined by others, and if they perceive you as flawed, accurately or inaccurately, then you feel their perception is more valid than your own. This creates two problems for the narcissist and the codependent victim. First, they are constantly in need of other people's approval and validation, to feel that they're a good person, to feel pleasant emotions, or even to feel energized and alive. Secondly, they feel shame, guilt, anger, loneliness, anxiety, confusion, or other painful emotions when someone disapproves of them and does not validate. This often leads to dysfunctional behavior to manage this emotional dysregulation. Codependents are simply trying to regulate their emotions by using the methods they learned when they had to adapt to their stressful past environments. So they may spend their whole life, and many do, chasing after acceptance and validation while feeling terrified of rejection, because deep down they're hurt, insecure, anxious, lonely, ashamed, or guilty. This is what Rosenberg, author of The Human Magnet Syndrome and the Codependency Revolution, refers to as self-love deficit disorder. This is the core of codependence. I will leave information in the show notes for these two books, which I highly recommend. Let's take a closer look to the narcissist side of the coin in these relationships. Now, way too often, narcissists have compensatory behaviors that others falsely perceive as high self-esteem when it's actually the opposite. External validation for the narcissist is generally referred to as narcissistic supply. The narcissist is the mental equivalent of an alcoholic. They will do anything to get their drug of choice, which of course is narcissistic supply. Attention, admiration, and adulation through a variety of behaviors. And the behavior can be positive or negative, doesn't matter, as long as they are the focus of attention and they are in control. However, this need can lead to feelings of insecurity and anxiety if they don't receive the attention that they crave. Pathological narcissism is a form of addiction to narcissistic supply, which results in the narcissist being left with a problem of his own making that cannot be solved. On one hand, he considers himself to be superior to all others, but on the other hand, he's humiliatingly dependent on constant input from others to maintain his inflated, grandiose, and fantastic sense of self-worth and self-image from people whom he considers vastly inferior to him. So that's the narcissist's inner experience. Now let's take a closer look at the codependent victim side of the coin in this relationship. Now let's take a closer look at the codependent victim side of the coin in these relationships. While the narcissist's self-image and self-perception are delusional and fantastically grandiose, his view of others is sinisterly accurate. The codependent is the opposite, as they have a pretty accurate view of themselves, but their view of others is fantastic and idealized. The codependent clings to these people, but they hate and resent them, and they hate themselves for their dependence. This leads to bouts of approach, followed by bouts of avoidance, a repetition compulsion. While this applies to the codependent, it also describes the narcissist. This is the strategy of a person with a disorganized attachment. At one time, I believed that I had an anxious, insecure attachment style. I confused being other-focused with being anxious, insecure. But once I realized I was experiencing a pattern of approach followed by bouts of avoidance, I was able to see that I actually have a disorganized attachment style. When a person is compelled to seek out relationships where someone else can fulfill their emotional needs, they're at risk of codependence. This is where the co in codependence comes into play. This is the dance that Rosenberg refers to in his books, in which both members of the relationship collaborate and contribute to the abusive relationship. In the dance, it's the narcissist who leads and the codependent victim who follows, like two dance partners on the floor. By accepting the role of victim and allowing the narcissist to lead, the codependent uses manipulation to control their abuser. Codependents sometimes claim to pity the abuser and cast themselves in the grandiose role of savior or lately empath. Their overwhelming empathy becomes the bars of the prison the codependent has built. In these dysfunctional relationships, the codependent feels guilty, either because they believe that they had driven the abuser to mistreat them, or because they contemplate abandoning the abuser. In order to break out of this prison, you must develop your sense of autonomy by not looking to the narcissist to lead. You don't need a dance partner. You can dance alone. If you like my content, please choose to follow, subscribe, or provide a rating so I can share this information with more people and you don't miss out on future episodes. If you would like to support the podcast with a small monthly donation, you can do that through the listener support link in the show notes. If you'd like to send me comments or questions, you can do that through the comments link on the Spotify app. I hope to hear from you. Thank you for joining me. I hope this information is helpful. I look forward to sharing more in the future. Have a wonderfully peaceful day. Until next time.